Hello, and welcome to the Inside Social Work podcast, where we take a peek behind the scenes into different fields of social work, engage and inspire practitioners, translate research into practice, and encourage lifelong learning. I'm your host, Marie Vakakis. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's podcast episode. Welcome to this week's episode of the Inside Social Work podcast. I hope you, your family, and friends are doing well during these difficult times. There has been a lot of change, a lot of uncertainty, and a number of challenges thrown our way over the last few weeks, and I'm sure there's probably more to come. So my thoughts go out to all of you, those who are working in the front line, doing work with vulnerable communities and vulnerable people. We know it's a really tough job, and thank you all for doing the very best you can during these extremely difficult times. In today's episode, I chat with Dr. Lillian Nejad around managing anxiety during difficult times. She shares with us some of her ways of coping with stress and anxiety, and in particular during the times we find ourselves in now with the coronavirus, with uncertainty, with unemployment, and with a change in work-life balance. Some of my favorite parts of the episode are some of the memes and video links that she's talked about that have just brought a bit of humor to and otherwise what could be a very difficult day and a number of stressful events happening across the world at the moment. There'll be a link in the show notes to some of the things that she's been working on and some of the articles she's written, one in particular where she gives 10 ways to cope with coronavirus anxiety. So some really good tips there and some great resources for you in the show notes. I hope you enjoy my episode with Dr. Lillian Nejad. Okay, welcome to the Inside Social Work podcast. I'm chatting with Lillian Nejad. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Marie. I'm really happy to be here with you.
Do you want to give the audience a bit of a background into who you are and what you're doing and things you're putting out?
Well, I am a clinical psychologist. I've been working for over 20 years in a variety of roles and sites over my career. So but I guess I would say I specialize in treating, mental health issues that range from anxiety, depression, anything that has to do with mild to severe emotion regulation issues. I mean, I know that covers quite a broad spectrum, but I guess I've worked in so many different settings that I feel like my experience is quite broad rather than really specific. So yeah, I've worked in community health services. I've worked in public mental health services across many teams, like acute, inpatient teams, CAT teams, primary mental health, continuing care, early psychosis. And then I've worked at universities as a lecturer in clinical psychology, but also as a supervisor for students learning to become psychologists. And I have, over the last 5 years, been working in private practice, which was a completely new phase for me, which has been great because it's given me a lot of freedom to pursue what I want and the flexibility to pursue it and all of that. So I'm doing lots of things in the private practice. I'm seeing clients and I'm working on workshops for companies and writing books and releasing mindfulness and relaxation exercises and all sorts of things. So
exciting.
Yeah, I'm busy, but it's good busy.
Yeah. And I guess in the spirit of sharing with the listeners is I always, try to practice what I preach. And we often talk about keeping in touch with industry mentors and supervisors. And that's how I guess we've kept in touch is because I kind of stalked you on various social medias as one of my old lecturers and tutors.
Well, you know what, Marie, when you got in touch with me, I don't know, a couple of years ago, I completely knew who you were because you stood out to me as students in my class. This was a class, if I recall correctly, it was the Intro to Counseling class. I think you might have been in your second or third year of your psychology degree. I'm not really sure.
Somewhere there, yeah.
Yeah, and there were 3 of you who used to hang out together. You used to always be at the front, And you were super engaged. And I really, as a, as a tutor or a teacher or lecturer, you really appreciate and you remember that. So when you got in touch, I was really pleased because I remembered you. And I was so glad that you kind of continued along the pathway to doing this sort of work.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean, I didn't continue with psychology. I've switched into social work and family therapy, but there's a lot of overlap in those two.
Absolutely.
I think this is a good fit. So, yeah, it was
Yeah.
really nice to have our occasional coffee, or now it's an e-coffee.
Yes. Well, it's an e-coffee for now, but that's serving us well. It's great to be, in a time where, something terrible is happening, but we can actually still connect via technology. Like if you think about if it was 25 years ago, how different it would be.
Yeah, we'd be pen pals.
Yeah, it would. Yeah. And, like a lot of my family you can tell I'm American, so they live in the US. And when I first moved here, it was 25 years ago, and I was writing letters, and it would take 2 weeks to hear back. And if I wanted to call, it cost $1 a minute to ring someone. So I just can't imagine what this would be like back then, just not being able to afford to talk to people or to have to wait for 2 weeks for correspondence from the people you care about. So I think, yes, it's a terrible time, but we should be grateful for the technology available to us right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had a few ideas of what we could talk about when we booked this in, but the world has changed in so many ways since we scheduled this in, and we've both been adapting to the current climate. And some of the work you're doing has also gone in 180 degrees and changed a little bit as well. So did you want to share with the audience what you've been working on and how it relates to the current pandemic?
Sure, I would love to. I guess the first thing was adjusting my life and also making sure that the clients that I see on a one-to-one basis felt that they were being supported still during this time. I actually switched to telehealth really quickly, probably earlier than most people. So I've been doing it for over 2 weeks now. So I suppose getting on board with that and kind of becoming more familiar with that was like a very important first thing to do. And it was quite confusing with all the new rules and what you could charge and, getting your head around all the Medicare issues and what we could and couldn't do was difficult. And it was also challenging for my clients who some of them had to wait until Medicare rebates kind of were allowed before they could actually resume sessions, which I felt very sad about and very concerned about. So partly I was just keeping in touch with them. We might not have had full sessions, but I was checking in. Are you okay? We can chat on the phone if you need to, and those sorts of things. I guess the other thing on my mind, besides my own family and kind of helping us all adapt to this as best we can, was to, I guess, recognize that because I've been working in a field and with clients who have been dealing with challenging circumstances their whole lives, and the outcome of that, which is often extreme distress and, behavioral responses that aren't particularly helpful and sometimes harmful. But I felt like I'm in a unique position to impart what I can in terms of what skills and strategies would be helpful during this time where everyone's experiencing something really challenging. So I first wrote an article, if you want to have a look at it, it's on my website called lifeblockers.com. And it's
just put a link to that in the show notes as well.
Okay. So it's just 10 ways to cope with coronavirus related anxiety. And it also has lots of links to other people's kind of information and articles. I try to make everything really practical, user-friendly, and evidence-based so that, people know that it's a kind of a trustworthy source of information. So that was one thing that I try to do first, because that's an easy thing you can disseminate quickly to many people, whether you know them or not. But in the meantime, I've been developing an audio course for the app called Insight Timer. You may not be familiar with this app, but it's one of the mindfulness apps that are on the market, like Smiling Mind or Headspace. Insight Timer actually is based from Australia, which is fabulous. They're also the biggest free mindfulness app in the world, meaning they have the most users than anybody else. And what I like about it is that you have access to like hundreds or thousands of different teachers teaching, mindfulness and relaxation exercises. So there, it's highly likely that people will be able to find things that suit them. They also have this other branch of their app, which are courses. So the courses aren't free, but they're like 10 or 30 session audio courses on a variety of topics. So Insight Timer had contacted me to do an anxiety course for them, and I've been really busy getting that ready for them. So the launch hopefully will be on April 9th, and then people can access that. So that is a course about how to cope with anxiety in challenging times more broadly. Obviously, it relates to what we're going through right now, but people experience challenges as part of their everyday life as well. And so it's kind of more broadly targeted at anybody who's experiencing any challenges. And I think that's something we need to remember too about this pandemic. Like, this is kind of something that everyone is experiencing, but people have been dealing with other challenges in their everyday life. And this is just something on top of that, for some people. So, we have to like really think through, how much are people really going through right now? And there's going to be a lot of individual differences in what else is going on in our lives, and also like the coping skills that we have to kind of deal with these sorts of issues. So I'm hoping that the audio course will help people with that.
Awesome. So how do you recommend people use it? So those listening, is it something that they can do for themselves or do in conjunction with the therapy that they're doing with a client? What are some of the combinations of accessing these additional sort of external resources in the type of work you're doing?
Well, I really think that I'm targeting clients, but I'm also targeting the general public because we all go through these challenging times. I guess in this course, what I'm drawing from is not just 20 years of experience working with people, but I'm drawing from mainly 4 evidence-based treatments and therapies. So the skills and strategies are primarily from cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, and positive psychology. Those are the treatment modalities that I work within. It's kind of an eclectic way, but I feel like they're all also very much overlapping and related to each other. And they also are able to provide practical skills that can be applied immediately, which I think is what people need right now. So I think partly it could be great for people who are already in this field, of helping people in whatever kind of modality that is, whether it's social work or psychology or any kind of mental health clinician or support worker. Just to kind of get a lay of the land in terms of what strategies are out there that are evidence-based, that draw from evidence-based treatments and research that would be, not too difficult for people to understand and learn and practice right now to relieve distress and to reduce anxiety and to build resilience, because I think that that's what we need to learn. So in the course that I developed, I really wanted to focus on kind of 2 pathways, which is kind of the acceptance pathway and the change pathway, so that there are strategies that cover both kinds of skills and strategies to build resilience and to reduce distress.
Is it a replacement for therapy?
No, and I say that very explicitly in the first session. I say this, that it's really important that you understand that it's not a replacement for therapy. Could it help you prepare for therapy better or to understand whether you need specialist support or not? Definitely. Like, it can definitely give you that, that information and knowledge about yourself that might help you understand whether, self-help is enough, or whether seeking specialist treatment would make more sense right now. So yeah, I definitely make that point. And I don't want people who are extremely distressed and it's significantly interfering with their life, or they're having suicidal thoughts or wanting to self-harm, to think that this course is going to be enough for them.
Yep. No,
Yeah.
that's a good distinction to make.
Hmm.
Is it something, I mean, I haven't listened to this particular course because it's not out yet, but often I find I've got some clients who like to do something like that as a bit of maybe homework, or at the end of our therapy where they're a lot more stable and they're feeling like, I still want to be touching in with you, but maybe not as frequently. They'll do something like that in between sessions, and then we might talk about what they've learned, how maybe hearing it from a different voice or a different perspective or a different exercise has worked for them and what hasn't, and we use it as a bit of a adjunct to the work we're doing.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's so important too. Like, I'm always adding additional resources on top of what we discuss in our sessions, so that they do get a perspective of somebody else that who's actually probably saying the same thing, but might be saying it in a way that they relate to more, or they might be touching or emphasizing something different that our clients can resonate with more. So I think it's really important to find those different resources to add to our own work that we do with people.
Mm. One of the things that it's probably not the direction I expected this interview to go, because weeks have gone by and the world has completely changed.
Yeah.
I think it's been the longest march in history.
And will continue to be for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the first time I know in my professional career where I've been going through the same stresses as a lot of the clients I'm seeing. So kind of what
Yeah.
you were saying, for some people, this is exacerbating already existing conditions.
Yeah.
And it's just one more thing they're dealing with. And for others, it's creating a whole new set of stress that they never imagined. And
Yes.
there's sort of this collective grief or collective trauma, or just a low grade or medium grade anxiety I'm feeling that as well. And
Yeah.
I wonder what are some of your, I guess, advice or some tips for those in the helping profession who are also maybe dealing with changes in their work, working from home, childcare, worrying about friends and family, and all the things that have been taken away, how they can sit with clients in this space when they could be feeling just as anxious.
Yeah. And I mean, that's such a big question. And I think you're right that there's also this kind of added responsibility, I think, as helping professionals, to be there for our clients at this time, even if we're struggling with kind of adapting to this kind of new way of life, that we still feel like we need to provide that support for our clients. I think, the other kind of side thing that I want to mention before I talk about what might be helpful is that I have been surprised by, not surprised, maybe it's, I guess, I found that a lot of my clients who have been extremely distressed and, have gone through unimaginable trauma and abuse in their lives, have been really resilient during this time. Like they've almost taken it more in stride than my clients who haven't had those extremely challenging experiences in the past, because this is just another it's almost like it's part of what they know already, going through hardship or going through uncertainty or going through, what you said, like a kind of trauma, that they have been able to say, okay, I know what this is, and been able to take steps to kind of adapt to it. And I think possibly also because a lot of people who tend to be highly anxious or distressed tend to isolate anyway. So this kind of extra forced isolation is in some ways comforting for some of my clients as well. But for people who aren't used to experiencing major challenges, everyone experiences challenges, but not necessarily at this level. And certainly not often. And they may feel like they're usually in control and there is a lot of certainty in their lives and all of those sorts of things, that this can really be a blow to how we kind of live in the world and how we perceive the world. And it can really shake our sense of safety and security. And so I think, it's important to just definitely take time for yourself to like decompress, to validate your feelings of being anxious. It's perfectly reasonable for everyone to be at a heightened level of anxiety right now. And I think just sometimes just telling yourself like, yeah, this makes sense for me to feel more anxious can be just a really helpful step to feeling less anxious. And also it can be really helpful for your clients to know that, yes, you experience the same feelings that they experience, and to share that, not share that like in a, I'm not coping way, like that's not particularly helpful, but sharing it in like, we're both humans and we're both going through the same experience. And yeah, it makes perfect sense for us both to feel more uneasy and more anxious and to be worried about what's going on now, but also like what the future holds, because there's uncertainty for all of us. So I think, yeah, you just need to be real with yourself and also with your clients.
What advice would you give for people who tend to want to fix it? So if one of their friends or family or housemate says, I'm feeling really uncertain, they straight away jump to, it won't last forever, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
What are some kind of basic skills in maybe empathy or just sitting with that are going to be helpful?
Yeah, I think, that we have, people are so different in how they deal with things, but a lot of people are like change focused people. So I'm probably one of those people. Like, you just want to go straight to solutions and straight to like helping something get solved or fixed. And, often that's a really valuable, way of going, but it's also sometimes skipping a really important step of just accepting how we're feeling now and validating how we're feeling now. And if people just want to express how they feel and just be heard and supported with that, and all they get back is, well, why don't you try this, or why don't you try that, or we should feel this, or we should be grateful for that, it can feel very invalidating and disempowering, or like that you're not being fully supported or heard. So I think it's helpful for anyone to just learn how to listen. It might also help to ask, the person who's who you're communicating with, like, what would be helpful to them right now. And they might say just to listen and talk. And it might be, no, I would like you to help me solve my problem. But getting kind of an idea of what people are wanting in the moment as well, and not just jumping into fix it mode automatically.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Do you think some people jump into the fix it mode because they feel like maybe that person's blaming them? And I know we're all in close quarters at the moment. So sometimes if someone's saying, I'm just so distracted right now, I can't work from home and I just can't cope with this and this and this, that the person they're maybe venting to feels like they get defensive because they feel like maybe they've contributed to that. So again, they jump to either problem solving or defensiveness, or saying, well, I'm finding it just as hard. And then we're missing that opportunity to just say, it sucks for both of us.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, even like in my own situation, so my husband's been working from home for 2 weeks as well, and he's in IT. So he's been working every day, just like I've been working every day. But he has a lot of phone calls and online meetings and all sorts of things. And we've just moved into a new house. So we don't really have a study per se with like a desk. So he's just put himself into on the kitchen table, which is basically open plan. So basically the whole living area is his office, right? And my children are in their rooms most of the time. And I'm just trying to do work wherever I can. So right now I'm in like a guest room, like you can't see me, but I'm like sitting on a bed. And my other option is our bedroom upstairs, but the internet doesn't work that well upstairs. So, like you just have to, so I have remarked to my husband, like, like you've kind of taken over the whole house, and made like your work the priority. And look, I have to say he was really he wasn't he didn't jump into defensive mode, which was nice. He was like, oh yeah, I think he realized, yes, that is true. He has taken over that most of the house. And then after we kind of could both agree on the facts of the situation, we could go into solution problem solving mode. So we've kind of worked out ways of sharing the space, or like prioritizing. Like if I have a client day, I'm going to need a private space where I'm uninterrupted, and that's the priority. On my non-client days, and I could be more flexible, and just working out plans around that. So yeah, I think, yes, of course, if you bring up problems, then sometimes people think you're blaming them and they need to fix it, or they need to defend themselves against it. And I think if we just hear what people have to say and think, well, what are the facts of the situation, rather than trying to interpret what people are saying or judge them for what they're saying, or judge ourselves for what they're saying, then we are in a much better space to resolve issues that we might be having.
It sounds like part of the broader way of working with the current kind of anxiety, and looking at validating, empathizing. And then once you've done those steps, then you can look at problem solving. But it's so important. What I'm hearing from you is saying it's so important just to feel heard, and for experience to be normalized.
I really think that, because we tend to be like a change focused society, and we jump into that before the acceptance kind of part, that I think that that's the reason why attempts to change are often only last short term, or they're ineffective, because we skip over the acceptance part. We skip over the part where we're like, okay, this is what's happening. These are the facts of the situation. This is my reality right now, and we don't really get a good lay of the land. So how can the change process then be effective if we don't really understand what our reality is, and haven't really accepted it for what it is, rather than what we want it to be or what we think it should be? So yeah, I think, acceptance is a very important step if you want change to work.
It was, I think I saw today floating around online a little comic by Loonig around, it's a guy talking to a duck, and it's like, the world is changing. It's like, it's always changing. It's like, our lives are in danger of, we're in lockdown. It's like, life's always dangerous, and it just keeps going. And it's like, we're living in strange times. And the little duck's like, tell me, when was it ever not a strange time? Like, it's kind of sobering, because people are like, things are changing. It's like, when have they not? But
it's the same with uncertainty. It's like, when are things ever certain in life? Like, they never are. In fact, things are actually, if you look at it in a different way, more certain. Like, we have really certain rules that we have to follow right now, right? We know what our next few months are going to look like. We're pretty certain that we're kind of stuck with this way of life for a while. So it's always a mix of certainty and uncertainty in life.
Yeah, wow. That's I'm really looking forward to listening to your course, because I imagine that there would be some, even tips just for practitioners, just to hear it from a different perspective as well, and maybe give us a chance to be not the client, but kind of take off that professional hat and just absorb some of the knowledge ourselves.
Oh, well, I would love to hear your feedback when you listen to it. That would be great.
So I'll put some links to the show notes for those. By the time this goes out, it should have launched, which is really exciting. But you've also got another one on there. So there was an insomnia course as well. So did you want to give people just a quick brief on that, and we'll link to that as well?
Sure. So Insight Timer asked me to do a sleep course for them, because I had written a book called Life Blockers, the Sleep Edition, which was basically again, evidence-based practical strategies to overcome insomnia. And that was launched late last year. And so it's one of the courses. So it's the way that this app works with courses is either subscription-based. If you do a subscription, then you get access to everything. for as long as you subscribe. But the other way is you can actually just buy one-off courses as well. And then instructors just get a percentage of whatever that is. There are so many kind of online resources for people. So I feel like, I don't want to just talk about Insight Timer. It's not my company, but I'm obviously, putting stuff up for them. And I want people to know that, yeah, Insight Timer is a fantastic resource. But if you prefer other apps or other online resources, I say go for it. Take advantage of all the knowledge that's out there that can help you with whatever's kind of concerning you at the moment. And whether that worry is getting in the way of your sleep, or whether that is you can't stop ruminating about the future, or whether it's just about, well, how do I keep my kids physically active and not just spending every second of the day in their rooms on electronics, or how do I balance my own needs for kind of just relaxation and time out versus the needs that my family has for me to support them, and the needs for my clients, the needs that my clients have during this period of time. And I think that's a really, especially for people in the helping profession, something really difficult sometimes to balance when that people are struggling out there. And you can't even see them face to face anymore to give them that kind of personal level of support. It can feel a little bit like you're not able to do your job to the best of your ability, but we just all have to adapt the best we can and deliver services the best we can, but at the same time, really make sure that we're taking care of ourselves through this process, and that it's okay to do that.
Well, it's a nice segue into, I often ask guests on the show to talk about their own either strategies for warding off compassion fatigue or burnout. What are some of the things that maybe you do? And even now, how they've changed. So a lot of people over the episodes have talked about going for a run and going to the gym and having brunch with a friend. So many of those strategies are not really possible or practical anymore.
Yes.
How have you adapted, and what are some of the things that that you've been doing personally that help keep together and sane and motivated?
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I'm not, some people are extroverts and some people are introverts, and I think I'm kind of I'm right in the wedge of that. Yeah, I am one of the, I always get right in the middle. If I ever do the Myers-Briggs, I'm right in the center. So I really need to connect with my friends and my family, but I also really need my alone time. And I used to have that a lot before, right? Because I do 2 days of client work in an office, and then I do my 2 or 3 days at home by myself, and that to me is rejuvenation time. Which I do not have now. We're never alone in the house. But you can create that though. So there are, so I make sure that I have some alone time to myself during the day. And if I have to let everyone know that, please don't interrupt me for 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be long, it can be 10 minutes, it can be half an hour or whatever. But where I go and I'm the only person in the room and I do whatever I want. And that might be that I just lay down and do nothing, or it might be that I play Candy Crush for 10 minutes, or it might be that I text or call one of my friends, or it might be watching a TV show that makes me laugh. It could be any of those things, but it's just me time. I need my me time. So that's one of the things that I always use as a way of restoring myself, just feeling like I can just do whatever I want by myself. The other thing just about this time though, I feel like we're doing stuff as a family more, which is great. We usually have dinners together and stuff, but now we go walk the dog together because that's the only time that we can kind of get exercise legitimately and go out of the house, and safely as well. So we did that. Before there were restrictions about going outside, we did a picnic together. We played Uno. Actually, it was quite funny because we were in the park just together, far away from everyone else, playing music and eating, a packed lunch and playing Uno. And all of a sudden this police car pulls up. and start speaking over the loudspeaker. And my husband and I immediately were like, what are we doing wrong? Like, I thought this was okay. And then the policeman goes, be careful. Your dad has a draw 4 in his hand. Just remarking about Uno. It was hilarious. It was so fun. He really lightened the mood for us and made us really appreciate, like the policemen are doing their job, but they're not, like they're helping us. They're not like trying to make us feel bad for doing like things that
doesn't sound like they helped your husband there outing his hand.
But it was a great moment, I think. And, we wouldn't have had that moment before. So just doing like those and having movie times and, things that we can do together. I want to do more of that. I've been working a lot lately, so I need to like find more time to do those sorts of things because they do fill you up. There's also lots of funny things online. I saw an amazing thing today. Hopefully, I think it's probably on YouTube or something, but it's this British family singing to Les Mis about what's going on during the coronavirus. And it is so good. It's hilarious. But like that song from Les Miserables is so moving that you can't help but feel emotionally moved by the music, but then laugh at what they're singing. So it's like you're laughing and crying at the same time. It's very good. So I think taking advantage and, making sure that there's humor in everything, like as much as possible, can be so, so helpful during challenging times.
There's some really good tips, and first thing I do when I get off will be to look up that YouTube clip.
I'll try to send you the link.
And in terms of in a professional capacity, apart from keeping in contact with really excited former students, what other things do you do to keep yourself kind of connected with other professionals in the different projects and different workspaces that you're in?
Well, I do have my regular supervision sessions with my colleague and friend, someone who I actually went to school with way back in the olden days. And we now are doing our sessions via, online means. So that's been working fine. So we get to connect on a professional level. I recruited a number of family members and my supervisor to go over my course and give me some feedback and some advice on whether it was helpful or not helpful, and kind of getting like ideas from people who aren't in the helping profession as well, like who are educators or who are going through anxiety themselves, can be a really helpful way of making sure that what you're delivering is is the right process and the most helpful way to impart kind of those skills and strategies. But I think, I probably garner the most support from just my close friends and family and from all kinds of walks of life and all different professions, and kind of getting a sense of how different people are dealing with what's going on. And, you can learn things from anyone that you come in contact with. So making sure that you do have those regular times where you get together. And, there are some fun ways to do that too, like, online coffee chats or online phone calls. My brother's just scheduled a group family phone call for Saturday. It was too early for me originally because, they don't think about Australia time, do they? I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to get up at 7 a.m. on a Saturday. So can we just do it a little bit later? But just like things like that, just making sure that regular contact with people who are close to you or people who you care about is so important.
Great. So the key take-home messages are laughter, having me time, funny things, and then just how we support others. So accepting, validating, empathizing. And there's a whole bunch of tips in your 10 ways to cope with the coronavirus anxiety article. And those who want to learn a little bit more can head over to Insight Timer, check out your courses, and there'll be links to all of those in the show notes.
Oh, well, that's great, Marie. I really enjoyed having our chat today. It's been a highlight of the week.
We'll put up the original topics maybe when this is all over, but I think this was a much more kind of pressing topic to get through, considering the times that we're in.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Enjoyed today's podcast episode. A link to all of Lillian's resources will be available in the show notes, so you can check that out at the Inside Social Work podcast website. Don't forget to click subscribe, leave us a rating or a review, wherever it is you get your podcasts. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. Be sure to check out the show notes for today's episode's resources, and don't forget to click subscribe and review us wherever it is you get your podcasts.